Step into the heart of Australian agriculture with Salt of the Earth Farm Stories, hosted by Darren Grigg.
Everyone says, how can you do what you do on the weekends, away with your band in all corners of the country? And for a lot of years, like we're on $1,000 a day interest when we put the 4 parcels of this farm together. And this farm wasn't making that much money. It wasn't making 350 grand a year. So we were surviving off music.
Episode 100. And I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate than sitting down with Danny Phegan. Farmer, singer-songwriter, entertainer, all-round character and a mate. To tell a story that's big, wild and full of heart.
Doing random kind of stuff. Ride a breaker for a dare, I'll take your $20. Wakeboarding in a table drain, hooked up to the quad. Working up a thirst like an old sheepdog. What a life!
Across 3 episodes, we'll cover everything from farm life just north of Albury, the influence of his grandfather, and the story of buying his farm at auction. It's a cracker. We talk lots of music too.
Living big wouldn't be dead for quits. What a life!
Danny's on big stages right across Australia, mixing it with big names and big crowds.
Party moves to the creek when it gets too hot.
We even hear about a stint in America breaking in horses. There's true work ethic here that goes right back to counting 20-cent pieces from pinball machines, to being on horseback for a year, riding from Darwin to Tassie, raising over $500,000 for the Campfires Against Cancer Ride.
Raise 'em high. Here's to your health and here's to me.
This man's life is packed with grit, heart and pure country energy. This chat is honest and entertaining, so pour a cuppa or grab a cold one. This is Danny Phegan. What a life.
What a life!
G'day Danny.
Daz. Do you still get Daz?
I do, mate.
Yeah.
I get a lot of names, but that's one of them.
I get a few too.
Mate, I just interrupted you from that nice traveller you're having. Not a bad
Yeah,
drop.
gee, we're going to get that in early, aren't we? Traveller beer, 100% Australian owned.
Yeah,
Great
nice
supporters of a lot of things we ride at and sing at.
Well done.
So I like to appreciate them where I can.
Mate, can you tell us where we are today?
We're at home, so we're out at Roseville, Walla Walla.
And Walla Walla, southern New South Wales.
Walla Walla, yeah. It's south of Wagga Wagga, northeast of Mitamita, south of Gumly Gumly. So,
Very good. Now, how many acres are you on here and what are you farming?
2,500 acres we're on here. We bought the place in 4 parcels. We've been here 20 years this year, but we're on 2,500 acres now. Black Angus cattle, a couple of odd bods down there. The kids are red. We're a bit light on sheep at the moment because about 800 acres of the farm is under solar panels now. So we had a couple of thousand ewes. We got them out of the way. That's all finished, so we'll buy sheep back in shortly. So cattle, sheep, and Caroline's 2 brothers have always done the share farming with the cropping side.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get to a bit more of the farming side of it soon, but as I said in the intro, you're a farmer, but also a singer-songwriter. And I'm going to mention a few of your songs throughout our chat today. First up, Inches. Love it.
Step by step is what it takes. There's time for work and time to waste. We shoot for the stars, it's good to be ambitious. And life's a game of inches.
Life's a game of inches, right?
Well, that was Dad's phrase all the time to me. He's got a few beauties, really. He says, never make a good man wait for his money. Life's a game of inches, so you just got to try harder than the bloke next to you and you go, all right.
Step by step.
Step by step, yeah. And you always let your missus get the finishing post first. They're rules to live and die by.
Thanks, mate. Maybe that's where I went wrong. Well, talking about your old man, mate, how is he?
Yeah, he's pretty good now. Pretty rough there for a while. He just went through, he's got esophagus cancer, or at least he had it, fingers crossed. Yeah. No, he was pretty crook last year. Wasn't much of a year. His 8-hour operation turned into 14 hours and he had to have, they call it a chemo sandwich, so he got a real savage dose of chemo before it. And then he just wasn't well enough to have it after it, so they're pretty confident they got it all. They've left him alone, and he's been going pretty good, really.
Wow, that's a
just
massive
recently.
operation.
Oh, it's huge. They don't actually get much bigger. The fellow was saying, the surgeon down there, in terms of complexity and all the rest of it. So he's pretty lucky. It came on, I mean, he fell over it pretty quick, really. I don't know how long this bloody thing was being growing for, but he just got to a point early last year where he couldn't keep food down, and even a swig of beer, it'd come straight back up, you know, and he thought something's going wrong here. He had a dirty, great big tumour in his esophagus. So anyway, touch wood, we're all still here, and he's on the mend.
Good on him. Wow. Mate, where were you born?
In the overcrowded hallway of the Mercy Hospital in Albury.
Yeah. In Albury, right,
Yeah.
What were you like as a kid?
Oh, I think I was all right. I think I've got similar kids. They get up to a bit of cheek. The boys are larrikins. The girls are probably more studious than I was. That comes from Caroline. Caroline was quite academic, school captain and Ducks of Charles Sturt University. And the girls are certainly taken after her. The boys are probably more hands-on. I think I was a pretty good kid. I got up to a fair bit of trouble, but I was never a nasty kid. That's a pretty good summary, I reckon.
And you grew up in the outskirts of Albury?
Yeah, so our family farm, Danmara Park, which was named after myself and my sister, Tamara, and then Bonnie came along about 7 years later, so the property was already named then. So I was 2 when we moved out into the land. Tam was about 6 months old, I think. So yeah, we grew up just outside of Albury. It was very much considered the sticks back then. When we went out there was really only Guadalupe House, the orphanage up there in the hill, and a church, and I was just starting to scratch in the roadwork of St John's Hill, like your Feathertop circuits, which were the original developments of Thurgoona. And over the years, the farm grew in size, and then in the subsequent years, it diminished in size as Dad sort of peeled off bits and sold it to residential developers. And we went right around the golf course there at one stage, and Mum and Dad sold what was left of the family farm about 5 years ago, which was back to the original 35 acres he started with, before it grew from Tabletop Road through to Kerrs Road. I'd had about 5 different incarnations. The name of that road while we were there was Tabletop Road, Hume Weir Road, Old Sydney Road, Boner Waters Road, Boner Road, and then back to Tabletop Road. Yeah, it's pretty busy there now, though. Geez, you want to try getting through Thurgoona at about 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Has he still got the old grey Fergie?
Did he have a grey one too, did he?
He bought one off me about 20 years ago.
Oh, well, you'd know.
A grey Fergie.
Well, he doesn't have it. No. No, I don't know. What did he do? I can't remember that. He might have loaned it to one of his brothers. They're a big family. He's one of 9. He had... I learned to drive a tractor when I was 9 or 10 on a International B52, which is down parked in the shed here.
You got it?
I still got it. And then he bought another one, which he loaned to his older brother Christopher in Waggo, who had it for years, who then loaned it to their younger brother John Phegan, who put it in his bloody clearing sale 6 months ago. I had to go back and buy it. So it's parked down in the shed too, but at least I got it home.
So always a country boy, Danny?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've been quoted a few times as saying that I'm lucky to be able to live the lifestyle that a lot of country artists can only sing about. And I don't say that looking down my nose and poo-hooing anybody, because who wouldn't want to live in the country if you can? And I think for the next generation, it's starting to become unachievable, really, unless you're bred into it. But coupled with the fact that Dad was a country boy, they were born in Sydney, but then Pa Phegan reared them in Golgong and all over the place while he was trying to make a quid. So Golgong was the town on the $10 note, famous for that and for Henry Lawson, and for the most narrow main street, I think, in the Southern Hemisphere. But coupled with the Phegan side of things and Dad wanting to get out into the land, because I was actually born in Albury and lived in Glenroy for the first 2 years of my life when I was a baby, before Dad bought the first part of the farm out there at Willinga, as it was called back then. I think they just call it all Thurgoona now. Coupled with that, my grandfather on Mum's side, I was very good mates with. Mum's one of 7, and she was the smallest twin, the youngest out of the 7 and the smallest. And Pa used to look after her a bit, and then I was her first child. So I got spoilt a bit by my grandfather, and he was a stock buyer for 52 years, a drover. He was a light horseman, World War II. Didn't actually leave Australia, but he got his service medals. So I had that countryside from Pa as well, Pa Freer. And I used to spend a lot of time with him while Dad was trying to get on his feet. I'd probably be around at Pa Freer's probably 4 or 5 nights a week. He'd bring me home after school and then spend weekends with him riding horses and things.
I'm going to bring up Pa a bit later in the chat, mate, which is a really interesting story. Were you always into music?
Oh, for as long as I can remember. Dad learnt the piano, I think, for, I don't know, he'll correct me, but I'm going to say maybe 12 months, and he always regretted that he couldn't punch out a tune. He taught himself a few chords on the guitar. So because he was allowed quit, and I think Pa and Nan Phegan were probably quietly happy about that because they didn't really have the money to push it, but he made me and my two sisters do piano. And it sort of went from there. I think I had about 6 weeks of guitar lessons, and I wasn't a great student. I wasn't a great student, full stop. Anyway, I spent more time away from school than in it. But my piano teacher became a great ally of mine, that if I was ever missing, she would back me up that I was in piano lessons. So I should be a concert pianist, really, the amount of time that I was meant to be in the piano lessons. But I sort of morphed towards the guitar. There's no one really, I wouldn't say particularly musical in the Phegan or the Frere side, except for my uncle Barry Frere, who was Pa's eldest son. And I always used to admire him when he was in a country band, and Barry was a drover and then a cobbler. I used to work down at Swift Street there in the Abercares building, fixing shoes and boots and things. So I used to, well, I remember it was about four or five, I watched him perform on the back of a truck somewhere at some festival, and he had his cowboy hat on and his shirt, and he had the press button shirt and the sleeves rolled up past his elbows, and I kind of morphed into that. But on the Phegan side, look, there was a bit of music ran through there, but not a whole lot really. I just saw it as a way to get girls' attention and later to make some cash. Mm. I guess that's the truth.
So farming and music, you were a self-starter on both sides.
Oh, look, we were off to a fly. I think we had...
Like you didn't get it handed to you?
No, certainly didn't get it handed to us. No, it's not intergenerational, I think, like that. It's... I had a plan. I'm not going to tell you exactly what the plan is because it sounds conceited, but it was my own private plan from 20 to 30, what I wanted to achieve. And I was driven by that, and I ticked 2 out of 3 of those boxes. The third plan was to be on our own, working farm. And we were bridesmaids a few times, Caroline and I, and we missed out. And this place was stranded. It had actually gone to auction and failed because some of the country down the back gets quite wet, which I don't mind. I'm into cattle, it hangs on a bit longer than the rest of the country. But a lot of the stuff around here is only really valued for its cropping capacity, which I think is a bit short-sighted. But it got stranded, and because it got stranded, we were in the box seat to be able to negotiate some terms with the vendors that suited us because, how old was I? I think I was 28. So history repeated itself. Caroline and I, we had our first 2 kids in Glenroy as well, in a little 9-square home, while we're trying to save up. Kaz is a radiographer and a sonographer, and within the first 2 years of her joining the workforce, she paid off that little house in Glenroy and owned it. Got my timelines all around the wrong way. Then we had kids. But we sold that home, and I had the Rand Hotel, the Wamargama Hotel, and the Drogery Hotel. So I sold Rand and Wamargama to further boost our deposit.
Hang on, so at what age you had the 3 hotels?
Oh, well, I bought Drogery when I was 20. I still own that now. I just turned 50 last weekend, so that's 30 years.
Congratulations.
That's 30 years if my sums are right, if I spent enough time in school. Sold the other 2 to get a deposit and a stake together, and Caroline sold what became our house, the marital abode.
And so when did you buy the other 2 pubs?
Oh, I can't remember. Look, I did that Campfires Against Cancer Ride when I was 26, and while I was on the back of a horse riding across the country, I sold the 3 poker machines out of the Drogery Hotel, which funded the purchase of Wamargama. And then there was 1 machine in there from memory, which helped fund the purpose of Rand. My end game with Rand was to buy the general store, which I did, and I moved it to the pub, and then I wanted to buy the post office too, so it was a one-stop shop, and I couldn't secure the post office back then. So it all roads led to just abandoning the project really and sold a bloke in Sydney, I think, from memory. But that formed our stake to come out here, and because this had been stranded and failed at auction, we were able to talk to the vendors and negotiate favourable terms. So originally Roseville was 1,313 acres, and it's amazing how often that number's been good to me in my life, 13. And we couldn't afford it all, but we were able to negotiate to buy 600 acres with all the improvements on it, the house and the sheds, and there was no sheep yards here and some basic cattle yards. I built those in subsequent years, but the improvements that were here, we bought the 600 acres and we leased the other 700 or 713, whatever it was, for 5 years with an option to buy in that 5 years. And in that 5 years, I pulled off a few deals in town. We bought the 400 acres on the corner, and then not long after that, we bought the other 600 acres off our mates, the pumpers, who were here for generations. And everyone put dirt on me for buying that 600 acres because it was so low-lying and so wet. It was a foot underwater in years 10 and 11. And the old timers can remember that happening over the years. So everybody put dirt on me about buying it, but it had been on the market 2.5 years, had 2 failed auctions. Actually, the day we went down there to buy it, the auction.
I've got notes on that, mate. I was going to ask.
Oh, it's funny. These are triggering my own memories here now. We went down to buy it. This was the second auction, second time around. And I wasn't sure if the agents down there thought much of me because I don't sell my cattle through them, and people sort of stick together a little bit. So
you were in the real estate game.
I was in the real estate game back then. Yeah, I was in it for 20 years. We mainly sold hotels, pubs, but we had a bit of a broad, 3 generations, so we had a bit of a broad depth of it all. But I asked my solicitor, and I'm not sure how many solicitors would do this for a bloke. Paul came out here, and I said, "Righto, Paul, this is the deal." I said, "Follow me down. I don't want them to know it's me bidding, all right, because I don't know what the agents think about me." I said, "If I've got my arms crossed, you don't do anything. If I've got my arms in my pocket, stick it in and win $10,000 rises. We'll see how we go." Anyway, we never got a chance to pull that lurk because the creek down here, I said, "Paul, I've never seen this creek this high." He was in a petrol car. I was in the old farm diesel with a snorkel. I said, "Just let me sneak through it." I said,
there was floods on the day of the auction, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
I can't remember. It was 2010 or 2011, but everything was flooded. The Billabong was coming across the Colcan Bridge. It was huge. They'd closed the Hume Freeway. I don't know how many times they've done that, which kind of worked in my favour because no one else could make it to the auction. But so we're cruising down there to this creek just on my place down here. And I said to Paul, I said, "Mate, just let me sneak through this first, I said, "I haven't seen it run this high, this fast before. It should be okay, but see how we go." Anyway, I got about halfway through it and I started to panic a little bit. So I didn't really pay any attention to what Paul was doing. I was just maintaining a little putt-putt to try and get through there. And the water's up over the bonnet and it's coming in through the side of the doors. And I got through expecting to say to Paul, "Look, the game's up. The game's up. I'll come back and get you. We're going to have to go down to this auction together." He panicked and was right up my backside the whole way. But he was in a petrol and he's in his wife's brand new Pajero. Leather seats, beautiful vehicle. Not now. So the creek picked it up and just upended it in the side. Paul had to swim out. He had to swim out this flooded creek. And when he came out, he looked like a saggy, baggy elephant. His suit was just hanging off him and he had all debris and bark and everything hanging off his forehead and stuff like that. And he looked at me like a deer in headlights. And I was only taking the mickey. I said, "Where's that authority to bid on my behalf?" And he said, "Oh," and he turned around and all the water, the creek's running through his windows and out the other side of his Pajero. He goes, "It's in the Pajero." I said, "Well, go back and get it." So he jumped around, he jumped back in the creek and he swam out and got it. I was only joking. I'm there laughing my head off. Anyway, he came back out and he was a little bit startled. So he jumped in the ute with me. We went down to the auction. There was only one other fella could scrape through the Hume Highway and he wasn't quite prepared to buy anyway. So we all sort of sat there with our hands in our pockets and waited for the auction to finish. And then I went to the vendor's solicitor and I said, "Look, this is my best and fairest. I think it's a fair offer." And so we bought from our friends, the pumpers. Yeah. But so we bought the block and then we came back here. We had 2 Coronas each and I took the tractor down, skull dragged his Pajero out and I paid his excess for him because it was a complete write-off. But that ended up, all that country down there, that 400 acres and that 600 acres of quite wet country is now the solar farm, the Walla Walla solar farm. So for what I was told was the poorest country I own, and for years ago when I was told, "Why would you want to be next to these power lines, which are across the road on the neighbour's place and actually run through here?" It's by hook or crook or good fortune, it's become the best business decision of my life.
Well done, mate. And you said before you were in real estate for 20 odd years, around Albury selling pubs. Is that what you did after you left school?
No, I did law. So,
did you?
Yeah. I had a deal going with Dad, and my old bosses probably won't relish in this story that I was always going to leave law, but I was. The deal was like all the boys in real estate had done something first. They were all tradies or something, and they went into real estate. And I think about 5 of them end up in real estate. Out of the 9, I'd have to do a count, but probably more than that actually, because the girls, Roseanne and Colleen, were also working in real estate too, for the boys at different periods of time. But the deal was I had to qualify on something first. So Dad had organised me a start with DG Skinner and Associates to start with. And I went down there thinking I already had the job. And when I sat down, I was interrogated by 3 suits. And I thought, wow, that was a bit of an ambush, I thought. But I ended up getting a job with Belbridge Hague Solicitors across the road.
Did you?
Yeah, and I worked for them. Well, if you want the whole story, I started working for them over the Christmas holidays before the working year started. But because I'd mucked around so much in school and barely attended, I didn't get the marks to do law. So it was called an article clerkship. So it's like a backdoor way of doing law. If you work full time, you can study by correspondence, and you learn on the job. So I knew I didn't need to shoot the lights out with tremendous figures coming out of school. And I just thought I'd do it in it, at an easy sale. And turns out I missed by about 6%. So the bosses called me in and they said, look, they quite like my work ethic. They said, if I pull my head in and go back and do year 12 again, they'll hold the job over for me for 12 months and I could work down school holidays. So that's what I did. So I went back, did year 12 again, which was very humbling because I'd squared up with most of my teachers on the way out and told them exactly what I thought of them on the last day. And of course, they couldn't hide under the umbrella of being protected by the sanctuary of the school anymore. So a couple of those sprays were quite fierce. And when I went back to see the principal, I said, I've got to come back and do year 12 again. She had a speech impediment. She was a little nun called Sister Angela Jordan. She said, well, quite frankly, Daniel, we don't want you here. So I kind of panicked because I thought, Dad's going to flog me up and down the paddock if I don't get placed back down here. So I went to a friend, Meg, who was at Albury High, and I said, I need to place myself in school somewhere to do year 12 again. And she said, learn the school motto and the principle will love you. I think it was called Adasper per Aspera, shoot for the stars or something. But I had it down pat at the time. I thought, I'm going to get placed somewhere. I'm not owning up to Dad about this. And anyway, the principal rang me and she said, if you go around and apologise to your teachers, and she said, and you sing at the opening school ceremony, you can come back and do year 12. And I said, I'll go and apologise, but I'm not singing. I'm not a hired bloody... And she said, you will sing. And I said, I won't. So I did. I sung.
There you go.
Sung like a canary in a petrol. And I got my spot back, and which worked out pretty well because I was a prefect voted in by my peers in year 12, not so much the teachers. And they had this handing of the badge over ceremony when we were leaving the first time round. And Caroline caught my eye, who became the school captain the following year. And because I repeated, we ended up in the same year. And well, here we are married, bloody all these years later, 6 kids and farms and all the rest of it. So what was a very awkward start ended up working out okay. So I can make any answer long, mate. You cut me when you're ready. But so I did law then for 3 years and I hated it. I passed the hard subjects, but I failed the easier ones, the tedious ones. I just couldn't sit still for long enough to study. And Dad and I had a bit of a blue about it. So I jumped on a plane and went to America to live. I was breaking in horses up in Colorado Rocky Mountains.
Is that right?
I was over there for about 9 months. And Dad said to me, back then it wasn't that easy to communicate, I had to go down to the town library on my day off and you'd be on dial-up internet, all that sort of business, waiting in line too. And I saw a message there from Dad one day and I thought might have been a bit of an olive branch or something, and you're old enough to go into real estate now or something. And it turns out he'd shot me dog. So the email basically said, Dan, you're in the market for a new dog. Sorry about the $50, Dad. That was it. So,
no olive branch at all.
No olive branch at all. But anyway, it wasn't too bad. I was talking to him there one day when I got to the public phone. They'd fixed this public phone where I was living and worked. And I called him one night and he said, I think you're old enough to go into real estate now. And I think I was 21 or 22 maybe. They'd already owned Gerodgery, and that was pretty well would help me fund this trip over there.
Wow.
To get over there. And so I came home expecting to go into real estate. And I said, Dad, when do I start? He said, start what? He said, get back there and finish your law. So I jumped on a plane and went to Europe with Don Alessi.
Did you?
Another Albury boy, yeah. Picked up my sister's birthday on the way through, but then went to Europe. But I ran out of money really fast. Like, we're paying $9 back then for a beer.
But you had the pub here at that time too.
Had the pub here, but it was borrowed money as well. The town talk back in the day was, his father bought him that pub for his 21st birthday. And that stuff used to really stir me up when I was young because I'd be working my backside off and taking risks everywhere and you'd get that sort of snide remark. Yeah. The truth is, I was 20 when I bought it and Dad guaranteed my mortgage. I had about $40,000 or $45,000 saved up. The pub was a $180,000 purchase and he guaranteed my mortgage for 2 years with the bank that if I fell over, he'd make good. But anyway, that sort of talk used to stir me. I used to get a lot of fights over that sort of stuff. But then I sort of grew into just embracing it, because nothing stirs a naysayer up more than owning something and running with it, and that takes all the wind out of their sails, you know. Like when I'd hear that sort of talk, they'd say, oh, I heard your dad bought this pub for your 21st. I said, yeah, but the old bastard made me wait till I was 30 to buy me a new tractor. That did better for me than Beltnam.
That's right. That's right. And I often say the people who talk about you behind your back are there for a reason.
100%. That's a beauty. I like that.
Mate, I remember when you were in real estate, I came in for a meeting with you about 20 years ago. We sat out in the car park for 55 minutes and then went inside for 5 minutes and couldn't work out what we were there to have a meeting about. Remember that?
That'd be about right.
Does that happen often?
Oh, Caroline reckons I was vaccinated with a gramophone needle, so I probably did most of the talking.
So, mate, this next song came up in my daily mix a few years ago, and I thought how good it was. And I looked up who sang it, and bugger me, Danny Phegan.
Oh, true. Okay.
Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't let them pick guitars and drive them old trucks. Let them be doctors and lawyers and such.
Mate, this has been a massive hit. Congrats.
Yeah.
Tell me about this song.
Oh, obviously, it's not my song. It's an old Waylon and Willie song, and it's been covered a million times. But I don't know, I was just going through it one day, and essentially it's a 6/8, but I heard someone do it as a 4/4, which is a straight rock beat.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to the boys, let's mosh it up. Let's go from a 6/8 to a 4/4 to rock, because people think they're getting something, then it becomes something else, and then we'll finish it back at a 6/8. And it was just, I don't know, it was just a bit of an experiment. It worked, so I recorded it as a bonus track on the album. But some people in Canada picked it up, and a couple other of my songs as, I don't do TikTok. I actually don't do much outside of Facebook, really, and I can barely hang on to the fringes of that. But some people picked it up as a TikTok soundtrack for writing dumb things, like getting on a pig or a donkey or a horse and getting bucked off and stuff, and mainly in Canada. So I kind of went a little bit crazy there for a little while. Yeah.
And that's how it can work.
Yeah, it's just, there's no rhyme or reason with trying to get a song right. I think I'm sure it was Graham Connors said to me once, you know, some of his best work never went anywhere, that he thought that's the best song I've ever written, and just tanked. And some stuff he gets out that he thought, you know, that won't do anything, and it's just, you know, go on guitar or something, and
that's right.
There's no rhyme or reason, because it just depends what pair of ears are hearing it at what particular time in their life. And
and he's had an amazing career himself.
Yeah, he's a nice fella.
Yeah, don't let them pick guitars and drive them old trucks.
Was there a point when your music really got noticed? Is this then?
Oh, not really. I'm not sure it's noticed now. I'm not sure if it deserves to be noticed. So I'm just grinding away and just doing my thing, you know. It's when I, just to tie for a quick another story, when I finally came back, because I ran out of money in Europe, Dad still wouldn't give me a job in real estate, so I went to work in competition with him with his brother John, and I was there for about 2 years, and then Dad and I ended up opening W.A. Phegan and Son Real Estate down in South Albury. And I think you were down there to do an ad for us. Yeah, down there. So that's how all that sort of started. But I had half or partly funded my way around America before I settled into Colorado, busking John Williamson songs and that sort of thing. And music had never left me. So I was 22, I think. So I had to knuckle down if this 10-year plan of mine was going to crystallise. So I was just, you know, I was like a cat with a paw on 4 mice and looking for a fifth, you know. I was doing everything I could. I got back into playing music as often as I could. I had jukeboxes and arcade games placed at venues all over the place. So I'd go and we'd divvy up the 20-cent pieces once a month with the venue owners. I was riding track work, riding racehorses in the morning. Oh, it's probably half a dozen other things I can't remember now, but I was burning as many candles as I could find.
Yeah. I can't imagine you ever sitting still. Mate, you said you're not sure whether it's noticed. I've had a look on Spotify alone. You've had hundreds of thousands of plays on Spotify alone. So, mate, it's being noticed for sure. Good.
I think that, look, the voice was probably the apex of it all.
Well, I want to get to that one in a sec too. Mate, you mentioned your grandfather before. You lost him to cancer in the early 2000s. And this led you to take on a massive task. Can you tell me about the Campfires Against Cancer Ride?
Yeah, no, he died earlier than that. He died in 1993.
Right.
18th of January, 1993. 7:30 p.m. I think it was a Thursday night.
Oh.
We were very close. There's no doubt about it. He taught me how to ride. I was very fortunate because the stages of our lives joined up that I was able to get a lot of his attention and monopolise a lot of his education back then, when my other 12 cousins on that side of the family certainly got plenty from him. But I was just very fortunate that we're both at the stage of life that we were. He had time and I was only a kid. And he was a great educator. He was a great horseman. And it did knock me around, you know, like I was nearly 17. And I don't know, it's a hard thing to quantify, you know, the passage of time, you sort of get numb to it all. But even casting back now, I can still see that young fella who wasn't that sure of himself holding my grandfather's hand when he took his last breaths. And it's quite a confronting thing. And Dad said to me some years later, he said, "You've seen a lot of death in your young life." And he said, "I'm not sure if that is a burden or a privilege." And I'm still not sure either. But I wanted to do something to honour his memory. And while I was over living in America, Dad was telling me that he'd had a bit to do with this fella from Sydney. He was a priest. I can't think of his name now, but he had the idea to get young troubled youth off the streets in Sydney by putting them on the back of a horse and go cattle driving around the place and make them earn some blisters. And when they came through this area, Dad helped them out with some tracks and routes and no doubt a bit of sponsorship, I'd imagine. And I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. So I had plenty of time to think about my life when I was living over in America with horses and things in those mountains. I thought, I'm going to do that in honour and in memory of my grandfather when I come back. And I wanted to do it. I wanted to push cattle initially from Darwin all the way to Corryong. That was the original plan. And I was attending a seminar. I come back from America now. Dad wouldn't give me a start in real estate. I got a job with his brother in real estate. And we're doing this seminar in Sydney. I've never been good with that stuff. Like I still get the icks now when I'm around school teachers, and they're just I don't know. It's not my lane. And certainly someone on a stage talking to you like you're just talking down to you, you know, like it's just got those vibes for me still, and I don't like it. So I said to my uncle, I'm not standing here doing this. You know, one of the things this bloke did, he got up, he made 1,000 people in this bloody auditorium hold hands, swing hands and sing Monty Python's Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. And I'm like, what the fuck is this about? You're grown-ass men. Yeah. You're grown-ass men. I'm not doing this. You know, like everyone's laughing and Uncle John said, well, you will. And I said, no, I won't. I said, so I went down to the pub and I sat there for 2 days until I finished. In the course of that, a mate who I'd grown up with through Pony Club, he was a lot older than me, he was about 10 years older. Ian James, I knew him through the Pony Club riding ranks, although he was quite a bit older than me, and he was working real estate too, and he said he'd like to help me organise it. And so we sort of shook hands on it. And it morphed into what was going to be a cattle drive right across the country we're in the 02-03 drought by the time that we actually saddled a horse for it. And it just wasn't feasible to try and push cattle that far, because the media it's hard enough to get on the news with a good story, you know, when you're raising money and doing it. You kill a couple of horses out there, you'd be on the front page of everything. So we were mindful that we had to keep it all glossy and rosy and everything had to go perfect for the ride. So we changed it from being a cattle drive from north to south to we just ride one, lead one, all the way across the territory in Queensland. And halfway through each day, you'd swap saddles. You'd swap over and ride the fresh one. But in New South Wales, at across the border from Gundawindi, a little place called Boggabilla, we started our mob there, and the idea was that everybody would contribute to the mob. Graziers would contribute to the mob on the way down, and we keep building this mob up. And I had images of, you know, walking 1,000 bullocks across the Hume Wall. But the 02-03 drought got a hold of us, so we only made it as far as Tamworth, and we had to sell. But it was still a big cash injection, and the whole ride itself raised $531,318.39.
Wow, mate! I've read this, and that's a huge congrats, mate. That's a lot of money. Well done. And you had a lot of support along the way. I think you had a lot of media coverage, but you also had people like, and I could be wrong, Lee and Tanya Kernaghan and those sort of people come and join you at some points?
Yeah, it'd be impossible to name them all now, but yeah, certainly Lee rang me one night. So the connection with the Kernaghans and the Freers, everyone thinks Lee and I are cousins. We're not related at all. It's my grandfather, Herb Freer, his best mate was Pat Kernaghan, and they were drovers together in Corrowa, and they had a mob of cattle down at Norrill, where everyone goes down there sunbathing that now, and it wasn't too much different back in the day. They had a mob of cattle there. that they were going to swim across because that was the stock route, right, to get to Wodonga. Old Newmarket to start with, but then they moved out of Wodonga. So there's two girls sunbaking on the other side of the river and looking all right. And so the boys are wolf whistling and carrying on as boys do, and said to the girls, swim over. And the two girls said, we can't swim. You swim to us. So the two lads jumped on their horses and swam them across the river. And long story even longer is the two boys married the two girls, which is my grandparents and Lee's grandparents. So when Lee was actually out doing a charity concert for the Great Australian Cattle Drive, which is also a feature event of the Year of the Outback, as were we, Campfires Against Cancer. And the chairman of that, Bruce Campbell, mentioned my name and what I was doing. And Lee had a lot of time for my grandfather and vice versa. So he rang me and he said, mate, I'll do a homecoming concert for you. And from there, it just sort of grew. You know, his producer, Garth Porter from Sherbet fame back in the 70s, he got a hold of it and he asked all these other artists, and they put a CD out called Trail of Dreams. I think there was about 24 artists on there, all the big ones, you know, Casey and Lee and Tanya and James Blundell.
That was awesome.
Yeah. So they were all on that, which helped. And Sarah Storer and Martin Oakes and Garth wrote a single about the ride called Trail of Dreams, which is the album's namesake. And that did a bunch of good things too.
And I think Garth has supported Sarah all the way through too, is that right?
Garth discovered her, and he discovered Martin, and he discovered Tom Curtin.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, his happy hunting ground was to go to the Victorian River. They used to have a talent quest like set up there. So all these ringers and Victoria River Downs, VRD. So it's way up north. So he'd go out there, and I'm pretty sure this is accurate. He certainly found Martin there, and Sarah was there. I don't know what she was doing. She might have been governessing, but Martin was the breaker. And then I don't know if you heard of Tom Curtin. Tom's going very well. He's won a few gold guitars. Yeah, well, Martin handed the reins over to Tom when Martin finished breaking. Tom took it on. As the story goes, coming from Martin, Tom was always writing down poems and things, but couldn't play the guitar. So Martin said, you want to put a bit of that literature to music. And
there you go.
Now he's killing the pig.
All right. Should have been a cowboy. What does this song mean to you personally?
Oh, not much.
Come on, mate.
There was a Toby Keith track, which is a really cool story about Toby Keith was over in a bar with his mates. They were deer hunting, and one of his young mates tried to get onto this young Sheila at the bar, and she blew him off. And when this young fella came back, Keith is there with his cowboy hat and boots, and he basically said, should have been a cowboy, son. Yeah, you would have been all right.
I should have been a cowboy. I should have learned to roll and ride. Wear my six-shoe, ride my pony on a cattle drive.
So he went into the, as the story goes, he went into the toilet, the bathroom there, so there was quiet space, and he wrote, should have been a cowboy in about 10 minutes. But I've always liked that song for that story, and a fan of Toby Keith. But I was going through it one day, and I thought the chord setup is exactly the same, pretty well similar to Run to Paradise by the Choir Boys. So just for a bit of fun, we morphed it into a medley. We bolted that onto the album as another bonus track, and we recorded that live in the front bar of the Kinross Hotel.
Oh, there you go.
And Nick Conway, when I came back from the Campfires Against Cancer Ride, I'd given up all my regular spots with music, so I was really starting from scratch. I was going cap in hand again, trying to get some work. And Nick put me on out there in the bar at Kinross that he just freshly acquired, and he said, look, give me 2 nights, and he said, and if you're any good, I'll get you some radio space on a couple of the radio stations around here. And I said, mate, I'm not trying to get famous. I want the cash. I said, I'll do the first one for you for free. I said, then the rest is cash and full bottle. So I played there once a month for 15 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Did you really for 15 years?
After that, yeah.
And Nick was a big supporter of yours and a big fan, and he helped along like Kelly Hope and that too.
Well, yeah, a lot of people got their start at Kinross. It was just a great live venue. And Nick's still a great mate of mine. So you see some of the paintings in this. This is the Half Star Hotel, which I named tongue-in-cheek because it's so rough. It was built in 1884. There's a mud date behind that fridge there in the wall. So it's a half-star hotel, and this became the halfway hotel for the purposes of the song I wrote about it, which did very well for me. It was my first #1 single coming off The Voice, but a lot of the paintings around here are actually from Tony Conway, Nick's father, who gave them to me. Yeah.
Ah, there you go. Mate, I want to talk about your fast-growing tribe, and firstly, a special shout-out to your dear wife, Caroline.
Yep.
How does she manage your hectic life?
Mate, it's a formula that works for us, and it's worked since the beginning of time in our relationship. Caroline likes being home, and I like coming home. And I think that's what makes it work. Everyone says, how can you do what you do on the weekends, away with your band in all corners of the country and drinking and having a good time? But for a lot of years, like we're on $1,000 a day interest when we put the 4 parcels of this farm together. And this farm wasn't making that much money. It wasn't making 350 grand a year. So we were surviving off music. So at that stage of our lives, for an extended period, I had to be out singing 2 and 3 nights a week because we relied on it. So in short, Caroline's never really known me to be home on a weekend. It's just the way we've worked. But as I say, Kaz loves being home, which I love because, you know, the home fires are always burning, the kids are right, and we think it's important to have a parent home with kids.
Absolutely. Talking about the kids, mate, I remember chatting to you around 20 years ago, and you had your firstborn, and then a little bit later, I think there was 2.
Yep.
And then it felt like about 12 months after that, there were 4, and then 5. And now you're up to 6?
Caroline's dad used to tell us she's the only crop that doesn't fail. we actually never had a plan, right? We never had a plan. We always knew we wanted kids. And my old man used to always say to me, mate, have 1,000 kids if you can. He said, because at the end of the day, they're all that matters to you and you're all that matters to them.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to take that so literally, but we never had a plan. We just took them happily and willingly. But when we had 5, 6 and under, and we slipped one in that journey too. So it was nearly even more congested. When we had 5, 6 and under, I looked at Caroline. I said, "We better get a bloody plan. This is getting out of control." And then nothing really changed except, I suppose, inactivity, which comes with being married for that long. But Paddy didn't come along for about 7 years after Adelaide, and we always said we'd accept kids willingly until Caroline turned 40. And if we did the count back, I think Paddy was either Caroline's 40th birthday present or my 41st. But because our birthdays are a day apart.
Mate, Paddy doesn't want to know this. Mate, I was thinking from my point of view, it just seemed to happen all of a sudden, and I was a bit concerned that maybe your tally was on the blink or something like that. But
look, I feel like I've always had the balance pretty right. Like I know Caroline probably looks like a single mum most of the time, but I do spend a lot of time with the kids too. But everyone says, how do you do it? You know, but I don't think 6 is much different to 1. 1's the big adjustment. Yeah. One is the one that changes your life, and all of a sudden you're not living for yourself. You're living for some other creature, and you're doing everything for her or he. You just bolt them on after that. Just follow.
Mate, I love their names too. Can you run through them from the start?
Their short names are Jess, Tilly, Bill, Emmy, Adelaide, and Paddy, who gets Murphy most of the time now because my mate up at Weeper could never remember the 6th name, but he knew it had an Irish sort of connotation to it, so he's calling him Murphy. Did I get 6 now? I hope I didn't leave him out.
What do the kids think of Dad on stage?
I think they seem to be proud of me. I must go all right. I think they think I'm pretty daggy a lot of the time. A lot of kids, you know, it gets harder as your kids grow older, and you can see in their eyes, they realise that you're not Superman after all. When the curtains are pulled back. But I think in those moments when I'm going okay and the crowd's in my palm and my hand, I think that they think I might have still a little bit of Superman left in me after all.
I love it. Who's the most critical of your music?
Oh, they all take turns, really. I ask them what's relevant with the youngins. Like I was 50 last weekend, and they're. I feel that sometimes at some stages now there can be a bit of a disconnect. And it doesn't necessarily have to come down to age either, because we played to one of the youngest crowds we've played at for years last weekend at Geelong Rodeo, and there'd be 2,000 of them, and I felt like they're in the palm of my hand the whole night. They were an amazing crowd. But then sometimes you'll see them checking their phone and talking to their friends, and you don't know. I don't know if I'm tanking or the sound guy's not doing his job, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you practice, rehearse, and prepare. You're only ever as good as your sound guy. There's a lot of pressure on their shoulders. Or a mixture of both, but sometimes I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect. But I'm a very tough critic of myself as well. The boys in the band tell me that, like, we can get most things right, but I'll still go away kicking an empty Coke can about something that I missed or that I'm not happy with. So I will ask the kids what's relevant. You know, what are you young ones listening to? And most of the time I don't like what they tell me.
Any of them showing any interest in music?
Oh, they're all musical. They had no choice, really. My old piano teacher, Lisa, when we first came out here, I asked Lisa to come out and teach the kids. I said, we're kind of a come one, come all family, you know. Like, if one wants to do something, then they've all got to do it for a while, because it's too hard. Yeah. You cut more ways than an orphanage pie if you're going to start taking one to tennis over here and one to netball here and one there and one there. So we're all package deal. So I said to Lise, we're not going to come into town. I said, but, you know, we've got plenty of kids here and we haven't finished, so you've got to come out to us on the farm. And she's been doing that for nearly 20 years. So they've all learnt the piano, and from there, they've all morphed into other instruments, mainly the guitar and a bit of singing. But they all ebb and flow too. Tilly's been up in the cattle camps for 2 years up in the Territory. She's been working in the Kimberleys and across in Arnhem Land, and she's become quite a proficient campfire entertainer. Yep. And she's lost that shyness, which is great.
And made a nice kid too. I was just chatting to her then.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, no, we're proud of her. She's certainly not a run-of-the-mill kid, Tilly. She's as pretty as a picture and not girly in the slightest. She never wanted to be pigeonholed into girl jobs and things like that. I think when you turned up today, we're talking about a beast we're going to kill later and cut it up, and she's going to do all that for me. But Tilly's become quite proficient at the campfire singing, and Jess and Bill sort of took their turns, but have more into working careers now. Emily is shining at it now, and Adelaide has really surprised me. Adelaide's got a gorgeous voice, and I only really noticed that about two months ago.
Really?
Yeah, and they chip away quietly, you know. I always say Caroline was very proficient on the piano. She went to 8th grade. I only went to 3 and then just was teaching myself stuff. But Caroline is very proficient. I'm not, but I'll play for anybody, and Caroline won't play for anyone.
Yeah,
and the kids are a bit like that. They do it quietly until they can pull a couple of bangers out. And Paddy has taken up the harmonica. I've had him on the big stages with us probably the last 2 or 3 gigs.
At 8 or 9?
He's 8, yeah. Oh, yeah, I was that proud of him at the Mount Cattleman's there the other month. He was as cowboy as hell, I reckon. He had his boots and his hat on. He just finished riding in this horse competition. He won the whip cracking competition, a big trophy and a sash and some cash. And then he walked up on stage with us and did a song called Cowpoke and Big Gun Baby, which the young'uns quite like.
Love it. Love it. And you wouldn't believe it. Here's Paddy now. G'day, Paddy. What were you doing on stage with Dad?
Cowpoke.
Really?
Yeah.
How much fun was that?
Fun.
Were you nervous?
A little bit.
What's Dad like as a singer on stage?
He's good.
Is he?
What instrument did you play with Cowpoke?
Harmonica.
Well done, mate. Bit of a star.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paddy.
I take it.
Mate, little man, could this be about your son, Paddy, or Bill?
It could be about any of the kids, to be honest, but it was written at a time when Bill was the right age. But it could have been written about any of them, because the premise behind the song was,
Suck it out from feeding cattle.
after we'd acquired all this land, you know, sold those couple of hotels and things and bought the land here,
Is this life too tough on you? Sometimes
a bloke went bankrupt on us, owing us quite a bit of money in town for a deal we had in there, and he fled to New Guinea, and we never were able to satisfy that debt, and it put us under quite a bit of hardship for quite a few years. And it was a terrible time. Caroline would say I'd fall asleep looking at the ceiling with my eyes open, and I was trying to do sums. If I get through October, there's some cattle sales. You know, if I can get through to after Christmas, some crop will come in, and working out interest and all the rest of it. And at that time, Bill was only a little fella, and he was always desperate, like Paddy is now, to be right next to me. You could never move a centimetre without him being right on my leg.
Hey there, little man.
And he always wanted to come around the farm with me, but he was always asleep by the first gate. He'd miss it all. And then you'd come back and you'd wake him up, and but as long as he was with me, it didn't matter. And I'd look at him, you know, I'm sure we've all been there, you know, he'd have a jacket all heaped up for a pillow on the back seat. And
Already come that I'm so proud of you, my son, and how you're lending me a hand.
I remember looking at him one day and thinking, geez, wish I could sleep as soundly as you. But I thought, you know what, you'll get your turn at life's worries. We all do. And for the moment, I'm the man of the house, so I've got to make it right. So I've just got to man up and take care of things. And son, sleep while you can, you know, because you're not always going to have sleep full nights.
For now, I'll do the worrying.
Mate, I love the song, and even I can get emotional listening to that one. I think it's an awesome piece, so well done.
I like it too, and I appreciate that. It got slaughtered on release, which I was really annoyed about. there was a bit of a disconnect between the media release that came out and the song wasn't available for nearly a week later. So all the steam had run out of it. So I only charted number 7 nationally, but it's probably my sentimental favourite.
And I'll show you what to do, how to cast and set the drag. Hey there, little man, we'll talk about the one that got away, the great big brim that won the day. We nearly had him in the bag.
There you have it, part A with Danny Phegan. We're off to a good start. From farm life to music, to counting 20-cent pieces, this bloke's lived a life you'd hardly believe.
Life's a lot like that, mate. Some failing and some winning. And you're the best part of me and have your money.
But hang on to your hats, because part B is where it really kicks off. We're talking the tough ways to make a quid. His album, From Where I Stand, peaking at number 1 on the ARIA charts. This is huge. We hear about performing on The Voice, and even a Pauline Hanson story that pushed him to write a song. Yep, it gets wild. You won't want to miss it. Catch you in part B. Please subscribe, follow us on social media, and leave us a review.